Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Only then did Rin realize that he was still grabbing her wrist. He released his grip on it, but just when Ruka thought the man was going to let her off, he held her chin with his fingers. The next instant, he kissed her on the lips, as if nothing could stop him once he crossed the line he had drawn for himself. Ruka pushed him immediately as her first instinct was that they couldn't do this. This is wrong. This is unreasonable. However, the man's body was as immovable as a mountain, and his lips were full of the minty aroma of wine. Only then did Ruka realize that he had drunk alcohol. This is even more dangerous. Ran Hassan, she finally warned him by calling him by his full name. Rin let go of her while panting slightly as his tall figure loomed over her like a shadow. His chest heaved up and down, and he stared at the lady in his arms with dark, fathomless eyes. He had been longing for this kiss for the entire night. "What did you call me just now?" he asked in a husky voice with a seductive flicker in his eyes. "Ren Hassan." Ruka bit her lip while avoiding his intense gaze. "Great. I like it." The man accepted it happily. Then, he whispered in her ear and warned in a husky voice, "Go back to your room and don't come out again." Ruka looked up and saw the man's eyes, which were so fathomless as though they were going to devour everything like a black hole. "I'll move out tomorrow," she said with integrity. Since he'd be so greatly affected if she stayed at his place, she might as well leave. "You're not allowed to leave," the man ordered overbearingly. Everyone had a line that couldn't be crossed, including Ruka. Moreover, she was a living person, so she'd also lose her temper upon being ordered around like this. "What do you want me to do, then?" "If you really crave for women, there are lots of women who are willing to serve you. I think Miss Parfait will be more than happy to do that," she replied in annoyance, though she didn't know what had given her the courage to say this to him. Ron took a step back. With his arms folded, he looked her up and down with a dangerous squint. "Do you think I'm such a casual man?" "Why me, then?" Ruka couldn't wrap her head around it. She went abroad at 16 years old and hadn't come back for nearly 5 years since then. Since when did Rin fall in love with her? Ron also wanted to ask himself the same question. Why her, of all people? But he'd been unable to find the answer to the question. After letting out a sigh, he replied in a husky voice, "Don't worry, I won't force you to do anything. Just stay here with peace of mind." With that, he was about to leave. Ruka couldn't help but say to him from behind, "Miss Parfait really likes you, so you can try to accept her." Ron froze before looking sideways slightly. "What about you?" Ruka was lost for words for a moment. Then, in a moment of haste, she blurted out, "I don't like someone who's older than me." As soon as she said that, she retracted these words inwardly. "No, I didn't mean to spurn him. I just want to use this excuse to refuse to let our relationship go deeper. If my parents know that he and I have crossed such a line, they're gonna give me hell." She grew up abroad, but she was an old-fashioned lady at heart. The man turned around. A faint gleam flickered visibly across his eyes under the light, and his eyes darkened as though he'd get angry at any minute. Ruka took a gulp. "Sorry. I didn't mean to spurn you," she hurriedly apologized. At first, she thought that the man would lecture her angrily. However, she heard him say, "Okay, I got it. Go to sleep." He gave no response, but he sounded hurt. Ruka suddenly felt that she was a mean person who hurt him with her words. Taking a deep breath, she walked toward him instead of returning to her room. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Ren. Don't be angry, okay? That's not what I mean. I just feel that you deserve a better person. I don't deserve you at all, nor am I qualified to be someone you love," she explained behind him while regretting what she had said on an impulse just now. Her mind was in turmoil in the first place, and she didn't look where she was going. Therefore, when the man stopped in his tracks, she bumped into his back. She quickly took a step back, whereas the man turned around and fixed his eyes on her. "I don't like your apology." He expressed his stance right away. Ruka blinked her eyes. "What kind of apology do you like, then? Is there a better way of making an apology other than saying sorry?" Ren's gaze fell upon her red lips, and his eyes darkened with a hint of danger. "What do you think?" he asked in reply. Before Ruka could finish her sentence, the man put his arm around her waist, leaned over, and kissed her on the lips. He was addicted to her tender lips, which tasted as sweet as candy. Kissing them made him feel as though he were hit hard in the chest. Ruka's eyes widened in surprise. Her breath was full of the man's dominating scent of hormones, and her reason was swept away by the man as well. It was as though no woman could resist his tender and yet dominating kiss under the dim light in the quiet hallway, and she felt dizzy as well. In the end, she nearly suffocated. She breathed intermittently due to nervousness. Not only did her face turn crimson, but she nearly failed to catch her breath. Noticing how her body had gone limp, the man finally let go of her. Seeing how she gasped for air while catching her breath, he suddenly let out a chuckle. A smile played across his face, and 2 dimples appeared in his cheeks as if containing intoxicating wine that would make one immersed in them. Suddenly, Ruka felt very embarrassed. She swung her fist and pounded his chest. "How dare you laugh at me?" At this moment, she forgot who he was, his identity, and his age, revealing the truest sweet and charming side of her. Ron patted her on the back while saying with sympathy, "Okay, blame it all on me." Only then did Ruka come to her senses. "All right. Now that I've apologized and you've taken advantage of me, I'm going back to sleep," she said. With that, she left in a huff. Rin wanted to go downstairs to get another bottle of red wine at first. At this moment, however, he urgently needed to go back and take a hot shower, or he'd probably be unable to suppress the flames of lust within him tonight. Ruka couldn't fall asleep as well. Her mind was so preoccupied with what had happened just now that there was no room for anything else in her heart. As she thought about it, her face blushed. Her heart fluttered, and everything seemed to be descending into chaos. Before she realized it, she had fallen asleep. When she woke up, the sun was already shining brightly outside the window. Ruka saw that it was 7:30 a.m., which was still early. As she didn't want to be late for work today, she spruced herself up and came downstairs early on her own. Elijah was already waiting for her at the entrance. "Miss Singed, I'll drive you to work and take you somewhere to eat breakfast along the way," he said. "Thank you, Elijah," Ruka thanked. Meanwhile, at the translation department, Mia arrived early at the office, having completely forgotten what she had done last night. In her opinion, she had only played a prank on Ruka, who must have found someone to unlock the door and free her. Just then, Victoria's assistant came over and called her. "Mia, go to Miss Parfait's office." Not daring to ignore her words, Mia immediately stood up and went to Victoria's office, only to see the latter standing in front of the French window with a dark expression while looking at her frostily. "What did you do last night?" she asked. I didn't do anything. I'd been translating the documents I was working with," Mia replied guiltily. "Did you lock Ruka inside the old library and turn off the power switch?" Victoria barked. Mia changed color. "Miss Parfait, I didn't do it on purpose. I meant no harm. I was just playing a prank on her. Do you know how serious the consequences of your actions were? Even my superior got criticized and had to write a self-criticism. Do you think it's just some trifling matter?" Victoria uttered between clenched teeth. "Huh?" Mia's heart trembled. "Is the matter that serious?" Why did it turn into something so serious? You're fired. Pack up your stuff and leave, Victoria said cruelly as her eyes blazed with repressed resentment. Ruka had asked Rin for help after being trapped inside the library last night. As he had come personally to save her, the nature of the entire incident turned out to be very different. What made Victoria even more resentful was that Mia's actions had indirectly created an opportunity for the two. She heard that Ruka had left in Ren's car last night, so they two had probably stayed together last night. However, she could only vent her hatred on Mia. Tears instantly rolled down Mia's cheeks as she looked at Victoria imploringly. Miss Parfait, could you please allow me to stay? It took me a great deal of effort to get in here, and I don't want to give up just like this. What's the use of begging me? If you were smart, you shouldn't have laid a hand on Ruka, Victoria replied with a snort. Mia shuddered as though she had noticed from these words how powerful Ruka's background was. Ruka entered the office from the outside, only to be stopped by a figure all of a sudden. It was Mia. At this moment, her delicalc makeup was smudged with tears like that of a female ghost, scaring the hell out of Ruka. Sorry, Ruka. I'm sorry. Let me apologize to you. Could you please let me off? Please, I'm begging you. Ruka was still puzzled as she had no idea what Mia was up to again. Mia's eyes reddened with anxiety as she was overwhelmed with regret. I just wanted to play a prank on you after seeing you go to the library last night. You can get out of the library by making a phone call, so all I did was lock the door. I really didn't mean to lock you up. Upon hearing this, Ruka finally realized why she had been locked in the library. She said angrily, so it was your doing. Sorry, I know that I was wrong. Please be the bigger person and forgive me. Mia put her palms together, thinking that Ruka was easily persuadable. Ruka was kind-hearted, but she wouldn't easily forgive someone like Mia even if the latter begged her for mercy. You're fired, right? If you are, then pack up your stuff and leave. You should have thought of the consequences when you tried to harm me. She coldly walked past her to go back to her office. Seeing that her plea had fallen on deaf ears, Mia became even more vicious at this moment. What do you think is so great about you, Ruka? All you have is someone backing you up. You couldn't wait for me to leave so that you'd have one less rival, right? Ruka looked back at her. You have only yourself to blame for courting death. Who else could you blame? Mia's words were getting fouler by the minute. Didn't you get ahead in your career by sleeping with someone? I wonder how old is the one you're serving. You're such a disgrace to us women. Pfft. Ruka's face blushed instantly. Shut up. Mia sneered when she saw how Ruka blushed. I'm right about that, ain't I? You pretend to be innocent and beautiful on the outside, but you must be promiscuous in private. How disgusting. Ruka was really pissed off, but she knew it was meaningless to argue with such a person. She turned around and returned to the office, and Mia came in behind her shortly after that. The others also heard that Mia had been fired. They appeased her on the outside, but they were inwardly happy. After all, it was a great thing to lose a competitor. Mia pointed at Ruka. I'm telling you, you guys have to watch out for her. Who knows when she'll have her back or fire all of you one by one so that she can take advantage of the situation. Inara retorted with a sneer, is she even capable of that? Mia recalled what Victoria had said, though. Even my superior has to write a self-criticism, so Ruka's background really isn't as simple as Inara thinks. However, she wasn't kind-hearted enough to tell Inara about it. In any case, just be careful of her. I'm leaving. Even if I can no longer stay in the translation department, I'll do very well in another industry, Mia said before leaving. Ruka covered her ears while being immersed in her own thoughts. Mr. Rin is the one who dealt with this matter and stuck up for me, she thought. Just then, Victoria's voice rang at the door. Ruka, come with me for a minute. Ruka stood up and went out with her. Victoria reached the flower bed nearby before turning to look at Ruka. You didn't hurt yourself last night, did you? No, I'm fine. Thanks for caring about me, Miss Parfait. If you come across anything next time, just give me a phone call and don't bother Ren again. You know that with his status, it's inconvenient for him to be involved in many things, Victoria said, reminding Ruka. Ruka's heart sank. She nodded, saying, all right, I'll try my best not to bother him. Victoria couldn't help but ask again, I hear that you got into his car last night. Did he send you home? Ruka pursed her lips. For a moment, she didn't know how to answer the question. A barely noticeable flicker of jealousy flashed across Victoria's eyes. Did she stay at his place again? Ruka, let me treat you to dinner this evening. Take it as an occasion to connect with each other and chat about our work, she suggested with a smile. Ruka was stunned for a moment. Of course, she knew that this wasn't the only reason Victoria wanted to have dinner with her. As an intern, however, she couldn't decline her superior's invitation to dinner. All right, let me treat you to dinner, she said to Victoria. There's a nice restaurant nearby that does a good job protecting its customers' privacy. Let's meet up after we've finished work. Victoria replied. Then, she patted Ruka on the shoulder and left. Only Victoria herself knew what she was up to. She wanted to test how much Rin cared about Ruka. She would keep Ruka beside her tonight and see if he would ask her to release Ruka. What she wanted to know the most was the nature of his relationship with Ruka. She had sent someone to look into it, but the investigation didn't find out anything. Ruka's background wasn't complex, but Victoria had no idea how she had come into contact with Ron. After clocking out, Victoria personally came to the office and called Ruka away. Ruka came out under the envious eye of everyone. Victoria's action seemed to show that she really had a powerful background or something. Ruka, my car is outside. Let's go. Victoria carried herself gracefully with feminine charms while carrying her handbag. As Ruka looked at Victoria from behind, a question mark popped up in her head. Miss Parfait has been courting Mr. Rin for 5 years. Why would she fail to win his heart with her good looks? It's not that I'm belittling myself, but she far surpasses me in terms of our age, our job, and how outstanding we are. I'm just a rookie who is still wet behind the ears without anything that puts me at an advantage. Why would a man as successful and well-known as Mr. Rin fall in love with me? Letting her mind wander, she came in front of Victoria's car and got into the passenger seat, upon which Victoria drove the car and set out. Ruka, do you mind telling me about your relationship with Ren? Victoria asked with smiling eyes. Then, she added, I think I've gotten the wrong idea about you too. I believe what you said last time, and I know that your relationship with him is pure. Ruka's face blushed slightly before she lowered her head with a guilty conscience. I'm sorry, Miss Parfait, but it's not convenient for me to talk about him. Victoria smiled instead of getting angry. I know that. His identity is a sensitive issue, after all. Okay, we're not gonna talk about it, then. Let's talk about your life abroad over the past few years. Your information shows that you went abroad at 16 years old. You left the country at a young age. Huh? Ruka let out a secret sigh before saying, yeah, I moved to the city where my parents worked to live with them. Then where did you live in the country before you were 16 years old? I lived in my relative's place most of the time, Ruka answered without mentioning the Hassan residence. Victoria turned to glance at Ruka. She felt that Ruka seemed to be hiding something. Seems like I've underestimated her. I thought that she'd tell me everything if I were to chat with her like a friend. She wondered if the relative Ruka had lived with before she reached 16 years old had anything to do with Ron. Otherwise, there was no way Ruka would have an opportunity to get to know him while growing up. She knew very well how Rin grew up, but even the timeline showed no connection with the city Ruka had lived in while she was abroad. Therefore, Rin had likely gotten to know Ruka before she reached 16 years old. Victoria felt as though a fine thread was twisting around her heart. So Rin fell in love with Ruka even earlier than I thought? Was he secretly waiting for her to grow up before I even knew anything? Such a relationship between childhood playmates did fill her with suspicion and envy. How lucky Ruka was to have a man who was willing to wait for her until he was 33 years old without dating anyone. Victoria couldn't help but size Ruka up again through the rearview mirror with piercing eyes. Ruka was looking at the scenery outside the window with a pair of watery eyes that seemed to have not experienced the torture of worldly affairs. She was lively and vivacious, like a greenhouse flower that had been taken great care of as it grew. Such a lady did have a delicate air about her that made one want to love her tenderly. She was pure, beautiful, and yet fragile, a quality that anyone would yearn for and try to protect. Victoria laughed at herself inwardly. She had become aggressive at work, as if she could no longer travel back to the days when she was as young and ignorant as Ruka was. She wished she could also be 6 years younger and meet the mature, steady, and protective Ren at the same age as Ruka did. If that happened, would she stand a chance of becoming the apple of his eye? After they arrived at the restaurant, Victoria introduced the place to Ruka. The restaurant rarely served customers from the outside, so the customers here were all internal employees. Ruka also understood the difference between the customers from the outside and those from the inside. Ron would probably come to such a restaurant too, she thought. Victoria asked for a private room and ordered some food. Then, she asked, Ruka, can you drive? Ruka nodded. Yes, I can. I have my driver's license. Great. I'm feeling down today, so I'd like to have a couple of drinks later. Remember to drive me home, all right? Victoria placated with her. Ruka hurriedly advised, Miss Parfait, you'd better not drink too much alcohol. It's bad for your health. It's okay. I can hold my liquor pretty well, I just want to drink a little to vent my emotions. Don't worry, I won't act crazy after getting drunk. Victoria smiled, I'm going to the washroom. Just when she was about to open the door, she heard Ruka's cell phone ring. She paused for a moment, but after that, she naturally pushed the door open and left. Ruka didn't know that the door wasn't tightly shut, and Victoria didn't leave outside the door either. She held her cell phone in her hand as if she were answering the phone outside the door so that no one would think she was eavesdropping even if someone came over. Seeing the caller ID on her cell phone screen, Ruka answered the phone with a smile. Hello? Elijah says you're not in the office. Where are you? Oh, I'm having dinner with Miss Parfait outside. Just tell Elijah to go back first. I might have to go back late, Ruka explained. Why would she treat you to dinner? She's probably feeling down. Don't worry, I won't tell her about our relationship, Ruka promised him while pursing her lips. To her surprise, the man on the other end of the line replied in an easy manner, It's okay if you tell her about it. Ruka felt her head buzz for a moment. No, I wouldn't dare to say that. Now I'm only too eager to hide everything that happened between him and me without telling anyone about it. Most importantly, even I myself find it unacceptable, so how can I go around telling people about it? Okay, call me after you've finished having dinner with her. I'll have someone pick you up, Ron said before hanging up. Ruka put down her phone and looked at the scenery outside the window. Her cheeks were still burning somewhat, and the memory of him pinning her against the wall last night appeared involuntarily in her mind. Just the thought of it made her heart beat faster. Is there such an overbearing man? And besides, it's like he never gave me the opportunity to say no. It feels like I'm being forced to go out with him, but I'm not prepared for this at all. Meanwhile, Victoria went to the washroom. She overheard what Ruka had said just now. Ruka said she wouldn't go around telling anyone about her relationship with Ren. Obviously, this statement proved that their relationship was beyond the kind of relationship between men and women. Could the rumors circulating in the office be true? They say that Ruka managed to get into the translation department by sleeping with some big shot. Could she have really done something like that? Did she get into the department by sleeping with Mr. Hassan? Victoria came in front of the mirror in the washroom. Seeing how her face twitched with jealousy, she felt extremely resentful. To think that another woman got her hands on the man of my dreams easily just like this. She had worked very hard in the translation department over these years to become the head of the department despite her young age. What did she do all this for? She did all this to chase after Rin because she wanted to become her best self, to become worthy of him. All the effort she had put in over the past 5 years was only for his sake, for he was the sole purpose of her hard work. Therefore, how could she resign herself to this? How could a girl pop up all of a sudden and steal him away? She was a woman who was eager to outdo others, so she wouldn't allow herself to suffer such a humiliating defeat. If she hadn't taken advantage of her drunkenness last time, she wouldn't have had the chance to hug him. She wasn't that drunk the other night, but the feeling of hugging him lingered in her mind for the entire night.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.